This man was working in his garden when he spotted these tiny eggs. Then they started to hatch. It was a beautiful day, and the sun was beating down on the garden. As one man worked his way across his property, though, something unusual caught his eye: some tiny eggs inside a hollow log. The man in question is an enthusiastic Imgur user, and it was on that site that he originally shared his story. Going by the name of Mad Dabber, he uploaded a series of photos that detailed the discovery that began right in his own garden. It seems that January started as a beautiful day in Oahu, Hawaii. The conditions were excellent for gardening, but the day was otherwise unremarkable. That was until Mad Dabber made his discovery. Mad Dabber's garden is decorated with hollow bamboo logs, and inside one of them the gardener spotted something. Indeed, the log contained a number of tiny white objects which were hidden from the Hawaiian sun. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him, and he approached the log to have a look. Nestled inside were at least 12 eggs, some of which looked like they'd already hatched. Still, whatever had laid the eggs had taken the precaution of sticking them to the log's interior surface. No doubt, hoping the eggs didn't contain garden pests, Mad Dabber managed to safely detach some of them, and the little objects were absolutely tiny. In fact, each egg was roughly the size of a garden pea. While Mad Dabber was examining the objects in his hand, something amazing happened. Yes, Mad Dabber felt a stirring in one of the little eggs, and it started to move. It was hatching. When he saw what was coming out of the egg, he couldn't believe his eyes. The little baby crawling from the shell was green, vulnerable, and adorable. Mad Dabber was witnessing the hatching of a newborn gecko, and it was small enough to rest on his fingertip. Although Mad Dabber didn't state exactly what species it was, the creature's identity as a gecko does explain the sticky eggs. Geckos that don't lay their leather-shelled eggs generally lay hard-shelled ones, and some species of gecko have a special technique of egg gluing. Before deploying this technique, gecko mothers find a nice, smooth surface, safely away from predators, that'll hold their eggs. Then they use their rear feet to put the eggs in place and allow the adhesive coating to do its work. Amazingly, geckos have been known to stick their eggs to sheer surfaces like walls or even ceilings. As for how the geckos get up to these accessible places themselves, that's another amazing thing about these lizards. You see, many geckos display the ability to cling to surfaces with their toes. They use the pads on their toes to act like suction cups that you might use to stick things to windows and smooth tiled surfaces. But geckos' feet aren't their only unusual attribute. Indeed, you can forget about having a staring contest with these little creatures because they'd win every time. In fact, practically no geckos blink, and some don't even have eyelids. They don't just use their tongues for grooming either. Nope, they're a deadly weapon against garden pests. In this way, Mad Dabber was fortunate to find geckos in his garden because they're insectivores. Their tongues are used to catch animals like crickets, fruit flies, and cockroaches. Much like frogs and chameleons, geckos have powerful muscular tongues that can stretch like elastic. So when a gecko spots an insect, the appendage whips out at lightning speed and reels its catch back in. But it's not just the speed and power of the attack that takes the prey by surprise. Geckos' tongues have an adhesive tip that glues their victims in place. Yep, once the strike has been made, there's no escape from a gecko's waiting jaws. Finally, one of the most unusual things about geckos is how their tails have evolved over time. To be specific, many geckos are able to shed their tails in what is called autonomy. In some types of geckos, the tail comes loose when a predator grabs it tight enough. For others, the appendage comes loose if the gecko feels threatened. In either case, though, the tail continues to move once it's detached, acting as a decoy while the lizard escapes. Not only does the shed tail regrow, often within weeks, but some species even possess scales with the same ability. The regenerative capabilities of lizards are so amazing that they've fascinated scientists for decades. Yep, experts have been researching the ability of lizards to regenerate their limbs for years, with the hope that these findings can be applied in medicine. Yet while there's been some progress, unlocking the secret to regenerating limbs like a gecko currently remains a pipe dream for now.